Look at this town square, probably somewhere in the Midwest, maybe early 1960s. See that monument sitting right there in the middle of the intersection? That's not just decorative. Towns used to build these things. Fountains, statues, obelisks, right in the center of their busiest crossroads. It was a statement, a way of saying, this is who we are. Notice how the cars just navigate around it. No one's honking, no one's in a rush. That Coca-Cola sign on the left, the way those storefronts line up with their awnings perfectly aligned. This was before America became a place of strip malls and four-lane highways. Back then, your town square was everything. It's where you bought your groceries at Jacob's, where you met your neighbors on Saturday morning, where the church steeple in the distance reminded you of Sunday. And here's something most people don't know. These downtown layouts were designed for walking, not driving. The cars came later, but the bones of these towns, they were built for people, for connection. Look at that pickup truck with the wooden slats. Somebody's grandfather drove that. Somebody's dad loaded hay bales in the back. This wasn't nostalgia then, it was just life. Now we're somewhere else entirely. Times Square, probably mid-1950s, maybe 56, 57. You can see it in the colors, that oversaturated postcard quality they used back then to make America look like a dream. And it was a dream, wasn't it? Look at that giant Camel cigarette billboard, the Pepsi sign glowing like a beacon, Admiral Television's advertising right there on the street. This was the center of the world, not just New York, the entire world. Soldiers came home from the war and wanted to see this. Families saved up for years just to stand on this corner. But here's what's haunting about this image. If you look closely, you'll see how wide open it feels. No crowds crushing together, no neon chaos, just space. People crossing the street in small clusters like they had time, like they weren't being rushed from one moment to the next. Times Square back then wasn't just spectacle, it was a promise that America was big, bright, and moving forward. And for a little while, it kept that promise. This one hits different. A street corner, probably late 60s, maybe early 70s. You can tell by the hair, those bouffants, the way the women are dressed in white blouses and skirts, clutching their purses close. There's a car in the foreground with something scrawled on it, graffiti maybe, or just dust. Behind them, a storefront, fried chicken and neon, lowest prices, a pizza joint next door. This is the America that doesn't make it into the glossy postcards. This is the untold story of American streets, the in-between places where people were just trying to get through the day. Look at their faces. They're not smiling for a camera. They don't even know they're being photographed. One woman, front and center, looks almost defiant, like she's seen enough, like she's tired. And maybe she was, because by this time the shine had worn off a little, hadn't it? The 60s had rolled through with all its promises and all its violence, and here we are on a sidewalk somewhere in America, just walking, just surviving. These are the faces we forget, the in-between generations, the ones who didn't make the history books but lived through history anyway. Now this takes you back to something deeper, the Great Depression maybe, or just after. Look at these children lined up, clutching their little metal lunch boxes, waiting. There's a woman, probably a teacher or a volunteer, handing something out. Food, most likely. This was common during the 30s and 40s. Schools became feeding stations. Communities pooled what little they had because kids were going hungry. Look at their clothes, patched, worn, but clean. Their mothers made sure of that. You could be poor, but you didn't have to look defeated. See the boy in the flat cap? The girl with the oversized sweater? They're standing so patiently, so quietly, because they knew, they understood scarcity in a way most of us never will. And here's the thing we forget about that generation. They didn't complain. They didn't post about it. They just endured. And when the war came, these same kids grew up and built the America we inherited. This image from some forgotten archive is a reminder of what it cost, of who paid the price before we ever showed up. Christmas morning, probably late 1940s, maybe 1950s. A young family gathered around the tree, tinsel hanging in long, delicate strands the way they used to do it. Two small boys in their striped shirts, eyes wide, barely able to contain themselves. The mother sitting on the floor in her sharp-shouldered dress, smiling that quiet, contented smile. The father standing behind them, holding what looks like a toy guitar, grinning like he just gave them the world. And maybe he did, because this was the dream they'd been sold, the little house, the nuclear family, the tree in the corner with the presents underneath. After all the war, all the sacrifice, all the ration cards and victory gardens, this was the reward. A quiet morning, a living room, the sound of wrapping paper tearing. But here's what makes this image so bittersweet. We can't go back there. We can't recreate it no matter how hard we try. Because it wasn't just the tinsel or the toys or the way they dressed. It was the belief that things were getting better, that tomorrow would be kinder than yesterday. And for a little while in living rooms just like this one all across America, it was. Look at this diner. Probably 1930s, maybe early 40s. The lighting's dim, that single bulb hanging from the ceiling casting shadows across the counter. And there she is, right in the center, a waitress in her white uniform, apron tied at the waist, standing perfectly still among all these people. Every seat is taken, every stool. Women in fur collars and cloche hats on one side, men in fedoras on the other. They're packed in shoulder to shoulder, and she's just working. Here's what most people don't know about these lunch counters. They were the heartbeat of American cities. You didn't go there for fine dining. You went because it was fast, cheap, and honest. A bowl of soup, a cup of coffee, maybe a sandwich if you had an extra nickel. This waitress, she probably worked 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. Her feet ached, her back hurt, but she showed up because that's what you did. And look at the faces around her. They're not looking at phones or staring into space. They're present, they're eating, they're together in this tiny, smoky, crowded room, and somehow it worked. From above, it looks like a maze. Rows and rows of houses, all identical, stretching out in perfect curves like someone drew them with a compass. This is suburbia, post-World War II America. Levittown, maybe, or one of 100 developments just like it. Soldiers came home, the government offered them loans, and developers like William Levitt figured out how to mass produce the American dream. Same floor plan, same roof, same little patch of grass. And people loved it because for the first time in their lives they owned something. They had a yard, a garage, a place to raise kids away from the crowded cities their parents knew. But here's the thing no one talks about. This was also the beginning of isolation. Notice there are no sidewalks connecting these houses, no town square, no shared spaces. You drove everywhere. You stayed in your own little loop. And while it looked perfect from above, down on the ground, people started to feel it, that distance, that sameness. This photograph captures both the hope and the loneliness of the American suburbs, all in one frame. Tommy's Market. Look at those hand-painted prices in the window. 29 cents for peaches, 35 cents for something else hard to read now. There's a barrel out front, probably full of potatoes or apples. A little white picket fence next door. This is the corner store, the kind of place that doesn't exist anymore. Tommy knew your name. He knew your kids' names. You'd walk down on a Saturday morning, pick up what you needed, maybe chat for a few minutes about the weather or the high school football game. There was no scanning barcodes, no self-checkout, just Tommy standing behind that counter, adding it up in his head or on a piece of paper. And here's the part that gets forgotten. These stores were more than businesses. They were anchors. They held neighborhoods together. When Tommy's market closed, and it did close, probably sometime in the 70s or 80s when the supermarkets moved in, something was lost. Not just convenience, not just prices, but connection. The feeling that someone in your neighborhood actually knew you, cared if you showed up or not.
Here's a rare photo. Young people gathered outside, probably late 50s. Look at the way they're dressed. The boys in their crisp white shirts, dark slacks. The girls in their saddle shoes and gingham dresses. They're laughing, smiling. Someone's sitting on the ground, someone else is leaning in close. This is before everything got complicated, before the 60s tore through and changed all the rules. These kids, they believed in something. They believed in sock hops and drive-in movies and going steady. They believed their parents had figured it out, and all they had to do was follow the blueprint. But within a few years, some of these same kids would be protesting, marching, questioning everything their parents told them. This photograph captures that brief, fragile moment when America still thought it knew what it was, when the script was clear and everyone was playing their part. Look at their faces. They have no idea what's coming. None of us ever do. Now this is history you can feel. The March on Washington, 1963. Thousands of people, most of them black, many of them in their Sunday best, suits and ties, dresses and heels, marching for something that should have never been up for debate. Jobs, voting rights, an end to segregation in public schools. Look at those signs. March for jobs now. IUE for full employment. End segregated rules in public schools. They're not asking anymore. They're demanding. And here's what makes this image so powerful. The dignity, the discipline. These weren't riots. These weren't mobs. These were American citizens dressed like they were going to church, walking peacefully through their own capital city, asking their country to live up to the words it wrote down in 1776, and some of them paid for it. Some of them lost jobs, lost homes, lost lives. This is the hidden history of America, not the version we learned in school, but the version people fought for in the streets. The version that cost something. This is what zero gravity looks like when you're trying to give someone a medical exam. Skylab, probably mid-1970s. 2 astronauts floating in that cramped metal capsule, one of them completely upside down, stethoscope pressed against the other's chest. Look at the expression on his face. Focused, serious, like he's back in a clinic on Earth and gravity still matters, but it doesn't. Not up there. These men were test subjects as much as explorers. NASA needed to know what happened to the human body when you took it 400 miles above the planet and left it there for weeks. Did your heart change rhythm? Did your bones weaken? Did your blood pressure drop? Here's what most people forget about the space race. It wasn't just about planting flags or beating the Soviets. It was about asking whether human beings could actually survive out there. And these men, floating in a tin can, checking each other's vitals with equipment that was barely tested, they were the ones finding out. The untold story of America's space program isn't just the launches. It's moments like this, quiet, clinical, human. Look at that ladder, 2 crude wooden frames leaning against the edge of a trench, smoke rising in the background, Marines huddled below, waiting. This is the Pacific, probably Iwo Jima or Okinawa, 1945, and that Marine climbing up, He's going into hell. You can see it in his posture, the weight of his pack pulling him down, his rifle slung across his back, one hand gripping the rung like it's the last solid thing in the world, because in a few seconds he'll be on open ground, exposed. And the Japanese were dug in. They weren't retreating. They weren't surrendering. They were waiting. Here's what the history books don't tell you. Most of these boys had never been in combat before they hit the beaches. They trained for months, sure, but nothing prepares you for the sound of mortars, the smell of burning fuel, the sight of your friends bleeding out in the sand. This latter represents a choice that wasn't really a choice. You either climbed or you stayed in that trench and waited for someone else to do it, and somebody always did. That's the thing about these rare photos from the war. They don't show glory. They show the moment before, the breath you take, the step you make, the courage it took just to keep moving.